Alright guys, Extreme Rules 2012 results slash review. I'll give you the results as well as my opinions on things. So, let's start off with the pre-show. The Miz versus Santino Marella. Good opening match. Lasted around, I'd say, 8 minutes. That's an estimate. Anyways, Santino ends up winning that match with the Cobra. Before the actual match, we had The Miz coming out and complaining that he's on the pre-show. But he said, despite being on the pre-show, he'd try and make this the best pre-show ever, and that this would be the most viewed video on YouTube because of him, and that he'd become the new United States champion. Obviously, that didn't end up happening, and Santino retains his championship. Right after, you had the roulette, not the WWE 12 roulette, and for those who don't know what the WWE 12 roulette is, you can check out my channel. It's a series on WWE 12, basically, online matches. Anyways, they had a roulette to determine which match Cody and the Big Show are gonna face off in. Ended up being a tables match. Eve told Teddy Long to spin the wheel, and it ended up on tables. Cody blamed Teddy Long for it landing on tables because obviously he's gonna have a hard time putting Big Show through a table. Which Big Show says, by the way, good luck trying to put me through the table. So that's it for the pre-show, and now the actual show itself. It starts off with Kane versus Randy, a very good opener. I liked the match. They really took advantage of the false count anywhere's, stipulation. So they fought everywhere, in the crowd, backstage. It was a good match. Actually, at some point in the match, Kane and Randy were like fighting in the room where the superstars actually were watching the show backstage, and Zack Ryder was there. So Zack Ryder took this opportunity to actually attack Kane. He got a couple punches in on Kane, then Kane went for a chokeslam on Ryder, but before he hit it, Randy interrupted him and hit him with a backbreaker. Anyways, the end comes where Kane hits a chokeslam on Randy. Randy kicks out. And then there's this steel chair on the ring. It ends up being in the ring. So Kane attempts a tombstone on the steel chair, but Randy slips out and then hits an RKO on the steel chair on Kane for the pinfall. And as I've said this in the past, it's something that annoys me here with Kane is that Kane can hit a chokeslam, but his opponent, if it's a top superstar, is always going to kick out if it's just one chokeslam. He always needs to hit 2 chokeslams against top superstars. Yet, that top superstar, in this case being Randy, he only hits him with 1 RKO and gets the pinfall. Whatever. So, afterwards, you had a pointless segment with Eve and John Laurinaitis. Nothing really special. Triple H calls John Laurinaitis, and that's about it. You don't hear what Triple H has to say. And after that, I think you had the Big Show. Oh no, you didn't have Big Show versus Rhodes. That's afterwards. You had Brodus Clay versus Dolph Ziggler. That was an extra match, and that actually was unlike the other Brodus Clay matches. It was short, but it wasn't Brodus Clay squash match type short, so it wasn't a minute. You had Ziggler actually getting a lot of offense in this match, and it was an okay match for, the short time it had. At some point, Ziggler is a great seller. I think, all of us know that. At some point, Ziggler, runs at Brodus Clay. He jumps. I don't know what he was attempting. And then Brodus Clay hits his headbutt, and Ziggler, flew, flew from the headbutt. It was a good sell, basically. I put Dolph Ziggler, on top with RVD, as far as guys that can sell really well, that can sell moves really well, sorry. So, after that headbutt, he hits, the splash for the win, and he came out with Hornswoggle, just like the past couple of weeks. And afterwards, you had the Big Show versus Rhodes, and like I said, it ended up being a tables match. And surprisingly, Rhodes won. At some point, in the match, Rhodes actually hit the disaster kick, but instead of using the springboards to, get himself up for the disaster kick, he actually used a table that was leaned on the turnbuckle. So that was a pretty cool spot. And it comes where Big Show's on the apron, and Cody's inside the ring. He hits a dropkick on the Big Show, and Big Show falls, not entirely, but only his left leg, or was it right leg actually. His right leg went through the table because there was a table right under the apron, you know, right behind the apron, and yeah, so shows right leg, breaks the table behind him, so Rhodes wins. So it's, you know, it's a complete fluke kind of. And afterwards, you know, Rhodes wins the IC title, but Big Show gets mad. He spears Rhodes, and that's not it. He takes Rhodes and he chokeslams him on a table in the ring, and that's not it either. Afterwards, he takes Rhodes in a military press position, and he throws him outside the ring where there's another table, so he crashed Cody, you know, through 2 tables after the win. So yeah, Big Show wins a title on one pay-per-view and loses it right after against, you know, his first title defense. Just like at Money in the Bank, where he lost the championship. Not a Money in the Bank, sorry. What was it? TLC, when he won the championship from Mark Henry, loses it right after to Daniel Bryan, and in this case, wins the IC title at WrestleMania to Rhodes. Wins it from Rhodes, I mean, and then loses it to Rhodes the next pay-per-view. So, seems like they don't trust Big Show with a title, or they just don't want Big Show to hold the title. Honestly, I don't think Big Show needs a title. And afterwards, this for me was definitely the match of the night. Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. It was a freaking great match. I was really impressed with this match. And just goes to show you that 18 seconds, man. If they gave, you know, some good amount of time for Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus at WrestleMania, I'm sure we could have had a great match, because this one was freaking great. 2 out of 3 falls. Daniel Bryan got the, no, he actually didn't get the first fall. Sheamus got the first fall by disqualification. You know, at some point, Daniel Bryan threw Sheamus, you know, between the turnbuckles on the steel post, shoulder first, and then he started working on Sheamus' shoulder. Sheamus was like grabbing the ropes, you know, holding on to the ropes, but Daniel Bryan, he kept kicking him on the shoulder repeatedly, and, you know, the shoulder, arm, whatever. He kept working on that, and the ref, you know, was counting, since, you know, it's a 2 out of 3 falls match. It's not a no DQ match. So he keeps kicking Sheamus. The ref counts to 5. Disqualifies Daniel Bryan, but Daniel Bryan is not, he's not mad or anything like that. He was actually smiling because he knew he had the advantage. He basically did that on purpose. Right afterwards, like, I don't know, a minute afterwards, he locks on the yes lock on Sheamus, but in true face fashion, Sheamus doesn't tap out. Instead, he passes out. And Daniel Bryan gets the second fall. Well, not the fall, it was second submission, I guess. And afterwards, you have, you know, some medical personnel, I guess, check on Sheamus, check on his shoulder, his arm. And, you know, they check on him for a good, I don't know, 30 seconds or so. Right after they stop, Bryan rushes at Sheamus, and Sheamus hits a bro kick on Daniel Bryan. And he goes for the pinfall on Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan kicks out. And the end comes where Daniel Bryan misses a headbutt from the top rope. And then Sheamus hits a couple axe handles, followed by his, you know, his Irish Curse backbreaker. And then he goes for his bro kick finisher and actually lands it. You know, usually when it's a top star versus a top star, they don't usually land their finisher right after their, you know, signature move sequence. It's usually, you know, they usually hit a signature move, and then they attempt their finisher, the other guy counters, something happens, and then he hits his finisher. But in this case, he hit his signature move, the backbreaker, followed by the bro kick right away. And, you know, he gets the pinfall. And I forgot to mention that Sheamus, when he came out, he got booed so much. It was almost like a Cena reaction, but actually, I think Cena got cheered more than Sheamus. And Sheamus got a completely, you know, horrible reaction. I mean, the crowd, you know, did react, but, you know, in boos instead of cheers, which is not good, you know, considering he's a face. But, you know, he's facing Daniel Bryan, so it's expected. And Daniel Bryan, despite, you know, making fun of the crowd in an interview before the actual match, where he was dissing basically the Chicago crowd, as, you know, they always do. Despite that, the crowd was actually cheering for Daniel Bryan the whole time, and cheering yes, yes, yes when he'd get some offense in. And, you know, Daniel Bryan got a hell of a lot of offense in this match. He looked like a freaking, as Booker T would say, $1 million. And afterwards, you had Ryback versus, I don't know, 2 jobbers, handicap match. Ryback wins pretty quickly. As always, it's a squash match. And what's funny is, during the match, the crowd was actually chanting Goldberg. Not Ryback, but actually Goldberg, so that's pretty cool. And another great match on the card, Chris Jericho versus CM Punk. I wouldn't say this was greater than the Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus match. I like that better. But this was great too. It was a great match. They both came out in street clothes, I guess, to play out the street fight stipulation. And at some point, CM Punk's sister slaps Jericho. And a bit towards the end, CM Punk grabs a fire extinguisher, uses that on Jericho. He actually hits an elbow drop, the Macho Man elbow drop, from the top rope on Jericho, who was on the announce table successfully, so that was pretty cool. And Jericho hit a couple code breakers. He actually hit 2 of them. A normal code breaker, and then another one with actually a steel chair between Jericho's knees and CM Punk's face, but CM Punk ends up kicking out. And Jericho, I think, hit maybe 1 GTS in the match. I think that was it. Maybe 2 GTSs, but I'm pretty sure it was 1. I could be wrong here. Anyways, at some point he also locks on the Anaconda Vice, but Jericho doesn't tap out. He actually grabs the kendo stick and starts beating the shit out of CM Punk while he's in the submission hold. And the end comes where Jericho has Punk further go to sleep. He attempts to hit that, but he fails. Then CM Punk catapults Chris Jericho on the exposed turnbuckles, which Jericho exposed in the beginning of the matchup. So Jericho hits the exposed turnbuckles, turns around, GTS by CM Punk for the pinfall, and that's it. The crowd was great. I did expect a bigger pop maybe when CM Punk made his entrance, but during the match, the crowd was great. The crowd was really behind CM Punk and really behind Daniel Bryan. Actually, I thought they were actually more behind Daniel Bryan than CM Punk, or maybe equally, but anyways, basically they were behind both guys, as expected. And then, this was a surprise to me. I think they tried to fool us all here. So, for those who don't know, the dirt sheets were saying that Karma was supposed to come back very soon at Extreme Rules or at Raw, because, Nikki Bella and Brie Bella are supposed to be leaving. But instead of Karma returning, it was Layla. So, before the actual match where Layla comes out, you have a backstage segment with Eve, Beth Phoenix, and, Eve says that Beth Phoenix is not cleared to wrestle. That was expected. I knew that, the whole Beth Phoenix versus Nikki Bella announced match wasn't gonna happen, that Karma was gonna replace her, but, obviously that didn't end up happening either. Instead, Layla replaced her. And, Eve tells Nikki that she's gonna have a surprise opponent tonight, and it ends up being Layla, who ends up beating Nikki for the Divas Championship. It was expected, the fact that Nikki was going to lose the title either today or on Raw. She ended up losing it at Extreme Rules to Layla. And what's funny is, during the match, they were chanting, actually, "We want Karma." And, the match, Divas match, I guess. So, they work on Layla's legs. Well, Nikki Bella works on Layla's legs. And the end comes where Layla hits the neck breaker on Brie Bella. Yes, Brie Bella, because they switch. And she wins the Divas Championship. And afterwards, you had a backstage segment where Matt Striker asks John Laurinaitis about the call he got from Triple H, and Johnny Ace says they're going to address this on Raw. So we'll see what Triple H has to say on Raw. And then, the main event, John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Now, this match, it looked more like an MMA match, at least in the beginning. Right off the bat, when the bell rang, you had Brock Lesnar taking down Cena just like on Raw, and then giving a couple punches and then a couple elbows to the head, and those elbows busted Cena open, in his head. He was actually bleeding from the head, and then Brock keeps, bloodying Cena. What the hell, man? I don't know. Does he still think he's in UFC? Anyways, like I said, the match was like MMA-like, but then you had Brock Lesnar actually, he set up some steel steps in the middle of the ring, and Cena was on the apron. Then Brock Lesnar ran over the steel steps, jumped, and kind of hit what looked to be a shoulder tackle on Cena, or at least an attempt at a shoulder tackle, but then he screwed up and kind of fell outside the ring along with Cena, and he kind of fell on his knee, and it looked like he was hurt. But then, he was okay. He actually laughed it off. Anyways, he goes back in the ring with the steel steps. I think then as Cena gets up, he actually grabs his chain, which he came out with, and he gets on the apron again. So then Brock Lesnar attempts the same thing once again. And as he's, running towards Cena, jumps. Cena actually connects with the chain. He punches, he has the chain wrapped around his knuckles. He punches Brock in the face with it, knocks him out. Brock starts bleeding as well now. Cena gets back in the ring, hits the AA on the steel steps, and gets the pinfall victory. I was surprised that Brock won his first match back. I mean, he beat the shit out of Cena in the match, but he ended up losing. But anyways, after the match, John Cena got on the mic, and he basically said he might get in trouble for what he's going to say. Then he said he doesn't have a left arm. He couldn't move it. It seemed like he couldn't move it. And, he said he might be taking some time off now. And if he has to take some time off, then he was glad his last match, before taking some time off, was in Chicago, because Chicago's a wrestling crowd. And then he said, every guy on the roster, big guys, small guys, bad guys, good guys, always give it their all, when they go out there. And, that's basically it. He closes out the show, basically saying he might be taking some time off, and that he's injured, basically. Looks like his arm was injured. And if you watch the match, Brock was freaking putting on an arm holder, an arm submission every single 2 minutes or so on John Cena, so it might have been because of that. And that's basically it. So as far as the John Cena and Brock match, it was a good match, if for what it was, a brutal beatdown, I guess. It wasn't really a wrestling match so much. It was just Brock beating the shit out of John Cena. At some point, he actually had John Cena upside down, and he put John Cena's chain. He put John Cena's legs in between the chains and kind of put the chain on the steel post. So John Cena was hanging upside down on the outside of the ring, and Brock Lesnar was punching him in the head. So yeah, brutal beatdown by Brock Lesnar, but Brock Lesnar loses. So that's it for the pay-per-view. If I'd have to give a rating, an overall rating for the show, I'd give it, around an 8 to an 8.5. It was a good show. We had, a couple of great matches. Daniel Bryan, Sheamus, CM Punk versus Chris Jericho, and even Brock Lesnar versus John Cena was good to some degree. Oh yeah, and Kane versus Randy wasn't a bad match either. It was fun to watch, but definitely the match of the night, at least for me, was Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus. So anyways, that's it for my review. I'm surprised it's actually 17 minutes and not over 25 minutes or so. It's still kind of long, but whatever. So anyways, in the comment section, I'd like to hear what you guys thought of the show, and what was your favorite match of the night. Mine was Daniel Bryan versus Sheamus, like I said. And with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. And expect a video from me tomorrow. See ya.